over time. This is the natural course of linguistics and language development. The danger is that there might be words in the KJV that you don't know you don't know. And the King James translators themselves say as much in their preface to the original 1611 printing.
See, this is the part. This is the part, and I asked him about this in the comments. This is why. This is why I'm making this video, because I asked him about this in the comments, and he doesn't respond. This is like, I mean, look, there's this thing, there's this preface the translators wrote, and of course they're writing in 1600, 1611. Their English is very different than ours. It's not an easy read. This preface that they wrote, okay. And many of the people, the defenders of modern versions, will refer to that preface and say, "Oh, well, look, the King James translators, even they knew that that different translations are all good, and so you could continue and make more." But they don't talk like that. But because they know that most people are not going to be able to really read that thing, it's very difficult to read. Okay, if you're not a bit educated, it's very difficult to read that thing. All right. Even for people who are educated, it's very difficult to read. Don't get me wrong. But he's going to say this. So they refer to that, and they'll say, "Oh, the translators, even the translators of the King James, that even they wanted to." Or even they felt like new translations would come along and they'd be better, but they don't. They don't feel that way. But anyway, listen to what he says. So this is what he's saying. The King James translators wrote in their preface.
In the preface, titled "The Translators to the Reader," they state that language changes, and as it does, the English Bible will need to be updated as such.
They state, this is what he said, that they state that language changes, and as it does, the translation will need to be updated as such. Now, I don't remember that when I read that thing. It's been a few years now, but I mean, we can look it up. I'll show you one thing that they did write. KJV translators preface. Okay, so I know one thing that they did right here. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So in this part here, look what it says. Truly good Christian reader, we never thought from the beginning that we should need to make a new translation, nor yet to make of a bad one a good one. For then the imputation of Sixtus had been true in some sort, that our people had been fed with gall of dragons instead of wine, with whey instead of milk. Because they're saying that there's other English translations out before, when they were making this, and they're saying, look, we're not trying to say that we're going to make a new translation. We're not making a new one. We're taking those other ones like Tyndale's. You talked about Tyndale's and others, like there were some others like Geneva and others, right? They took those. And they took them and they're taking them, they're making a better one. Okay, they're not saying that those were bad, and they're not trying to come up with a brand new one either. Okay, they're saying those ones are good. Those are also the Word of God. The Tyndale Bible, the Geneva Bible, the Bishop's Bible. Those are also the Word of God. But we're taking those, and our mark is to make. See, they weren't trying to make a new one. They weren't trying to make out of bad ones a good one. But to make a good one better, or out of many good ones, one principal good one. So they're taking all those other good ones, and they're making one principal good one. Okay, the really good one, the perfect one. And it says not justly to be accepted against. That has been our endeavor, that our mark. So that's been their goal all along. Their goal has been to make one out of many good ones, one principal good one, and that one not justly to be accepted against. What does that mean? It means that the one they're gonna making out of all these, they're gonna make one which is not to be accepted against. They're not saying that oh yeah, you could just, oh, as language evolves, making more ones. No. They're not saying that at all. They're saying, don't, this one that we're making now is going to be perfect. Don't make any changes. That's what they're saying. Not to be accepted against. Or not justly, anyway. So you see? Now that's what I recall from reading this. And I don't remember them saying whatever he said. I don't know what he said there. That's like, to me, that's just being very deceptive. He doesn't show you the quotes. See how I just showed you the quote, even though it's in Old English or whatever, and we talk about it, you may say that, you may disagree with me about what that means. Or you can go look up the King James translation now, or the translator's preface, and read it yourself, and maybe you have a different interpretation of what they said. I just gave you a little quote. Maybe that's not what they mean in context. So you can debate me or whatever. But he doesn't do that. He just tells you something that they supposedly said. Which actually, that seems to directly contradict what I just read you. Okay? Because let's just hear what he says again.
There's the out entirely. This is the natural course of words in the KJV that you don't know, their preface to the original 1611 printing. In the preface, titled The Translators to the Reader, they state that language changes, and as it does, the English Bible will need to be updated as such.
So they state that language changes, and as it does, the Bible will need to be updated as such. Where do they say that, Wes? Where do they say that? That's what I asked him. He doesn't respond to me in the comments, you know. And so, like, I mean, this is very bad. This is not good, you know. But this is what scholars do. They assume that everyone's so stupid that they can't read that thing, or that we're just never gonna look it up. That we're just gonna believe this guy. Most people, I'm not saying they're all stupid, but most people just trust this guy. Because they're like, yeah, you know, he's a scholar, he's a Christian, probably everything he's saying is true, or we could just rely on him, you know, and trust him. And unfortunately, I'm not saying he's a bad guy or he's like some wicked, evil person, but he's not being honest here. He's not being fully honest. As far as I can tell, I don't recall them saying anything like that, Wes. And you know, if you know better than me, then please offer up the quote and show me the exact quote, and we can read it in their Old English and debate what they exactly mean. But I just showed you that they said that they created a Bible that is not justly to be accepted against. That is, you don't come along and just say that this Bible's wrong and they should have been said this way. No. They're saying that they made one. That was their philosophy, that they made one that's... They're taking good Bibles and making a perfect Bible. And what he's trying to do is say that, because they're not, again, the other thing that they said in that was that they're not trying to make a new translation. They take those old ones and build on those old ones. They built on the Tyndale. They built on the Bishop's Bible. They used the work of previous translators to create this one Bible that's the best. And since then, the King James has undergone additions, you know, and then what they've done is taken this good Bible that those men made, the translators, and just making it better, refining it, and making it more readable again, and other slight improvements like fixing the spellings and those things. Okay, but what he's trying to say is that the translators somehow supported making a brand new translation. Because that's what people do now. They don't try to build off those other ones. They might consult them, but they're what they do now with these modern translations is they make a brand new translation, straight from the Greek and Hebrew, without really depending on those previous translations such as the King James. and it's a totally different like type of work. It's a totally different translational task, you know, or translational like endeavor. It's not quite the same as what the King James people were talking about. So he's really quite egregiously misrepresented the King James translators here, and it's actually it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, but these scholars do this all the time, especially in the Bible, in biblical scholarship. Unfortunately, like all the scholars, in my opinion, nowadays are quite compromised, and scholarship in general has taken a huge downturn, especially since the days of the translators of the King James. But you know, you really do see it in the biblical translations and biblical scholarship. I mean, it's really quite atrocious the way they do this kind of thing. And this what he's doing right now is very bad. It's not good. He's misrepresenting them, what they said there. Okay, it's very bad. We rely on scholars to explain these things to us because they're difficult to understand. It's hard to read the translation. You have to be pretty well educated just to read that thing. And so we rely on people like this to explain it to us, less educated Christians. But he's not doing that. He's misrepresenting it. And that's very, very bad because he has an agenda. He has an agenda to support modern Bibles and to put down the King James. And you know, maybe I have an agenda too. I support the King James, so I'm not pretending I don't have an agenda here. But I am showing you exactly what the translators said. I'm showing you their exact words, and I'm giving you kind of what it means. You can decide for yourself whether I'm right or not, or you can go read that thing for yourself. But he's not properly showing you where does it say that in that writing. What exactly does it say in the writing there? He's giving you some weird kind of thing. If they even said anything related to what he's saying here, it's not like that. It says it in their old English, and it's not gonna, you know, he's not. I don't know. Anyway.